Great. So this worksheet should help us think through and understand a little bit more about what the resurrection is all about. Now I suggest you have a read of it for yourself, the story for yourself in the Bible. So we're going to be in Luke chapter 24 verses 1 to 12. So to find Luke, head to the New Testament. It's about 3/4 of the way through the Bible. And then flick forward through Matthew, Mark, then you get to Luke. If you're in John or Acts or Romans, you've gone a bit too far. You need to flick back a few pages. Looking for Luke, then you're looking for the big number 24, chapter 24, and then the little number 1 through to 12 is what we're reading the story of Jesus' resurrection. Once you've had a read of that, do the worksheet, and then we'll have a think about what the story means and work our way through the sheet. Okay, so the first question the sheet asks is, why did the women go to the tomb? They were bringing spices to put on Jesus' body. In the country where Jesus was, dead bodies would start to smell. It'd be hot and smelly, and so they put spices on the body to make it smell nice. It's a kind thing to do. What did the women do when they got there? What did they find? Well, they found that the stone had been moved. They'd seen that Jesus' body was gone, and that there were 2 angels there. It's a pretty remarkable set of things to find. They weren't expecting that. How do you think the women felt when they saw all these things? Scared? Scared, confused? What's going on? Probably really sad as well. They went to try and care for their friend's body, and it wasn't there. And all this, the angels were there, the stone was rolled away. It would have been really confusing and scary, and they would have been feeling this mixed up set of emotions. Okay. And then the angels start talking to them. So what did the angels tell the women? Tick the correct box. Well, it wasn't that it was too early in the morning to worry. You can worry any time of the day. They hadn't gone to the wrong tomb. They'd been there a few nights before when Jesus' body was put in the tomb, so they knew they were at the right tomb. It wasn't that Jesus hadn't really died. He really had died. The Romans were good at killing people. Jesus was really dead. The right answer is that Jesus had promised this would happen. Let me read to you from Luke 24, verse 6. Remember how he told you, that's Jesus, while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the 3rd day be raised again. Then the women remembered his words. So it was when they realised that Jesus had promised this would happen, they were okay. They were a bit less sad. And they ran back, didn't they? And they told the disciples. Why do you think the disciples didn't believe the women? Well, it sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Dead people don't normally come back to life. The disciples must have thought, oh, the women really wanted it to happen. Didn't believe them. Why did Peter run to the tomb, do we think? Or maybe he wants to see for himself. He wants to actually see if the body isn't there, just check that the women didn't miss anything. He wanted to see with his own eyes. Okay. So what does the resurrection prove about who Jesus is? Well, the resurrection shows us that Jesus is someone from God. As we say, dead people don't normally come back to life. Even in the Bible, it doesn't happen very often. And whenever it does, it's always showing us that God's at work, that God had a special plan, that God was in charge. So I think we're seeing that Jesus is someone specially, he's sent by God, that God's especially over him. What does it tell us about what Jesus says? Remember, Jesus said he was going to die and come back to life. And then he did. So we're seeing that Jesus is truthful. He keeps his word. He keeps his promises. And it says, what else can we trust Jesus with? Well, if we're trusting that Jesus did make that swap that we were talking about last week for us, that he takes away our sin and gives us his perfectness instead, and promises that we can get to be with him in heaven, then we know that Jesus will keep his promise. He kept this promise of him dying and coming back to life. And he can keep his promises to us too. We see that Jesus is trustworthy. We can trust him with saving us, for making us able to go with him to heaven if we're believing in him. And then the last question, when do you find it hard to trust Jesus' words? I don't know when you find it hard to trust Jesus' words. Sometimes for me, when things aren't going the way that I want them to, and life may be a bit hard and a bit difficult, then sometimes it can be hard to trust. God, are you really in control? Jesus, are you really kind and loving like you say you are? But knowing that this resurrection really happened and that Jesus was right about that can help me, because it helps me go, oh, he kept his promises to his disciples then. He'll keep his promise to me now. And I can look forward to those times when things are going to be perfect and right and good, even if they're hard and difficult now. So hopefully this has helped us understand a little bit more about what the resurrection, what Jesus' resurrection is all about.